which is fortunate because there's another Beth Tikvah event going on simultaneously with this Zoom program. And so the people that are attending that event will be able to still watch this event through the recording. So welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here tonight. This program is a joint program of the Beth Tikvah Men's Club and the Social Justice Committee. The Men's Club has great experience in hosting local government officials to talk about issues and things. So we thought it was very appropriate to reach out to the Men's Club and ask them to co-sponsor, and they were very willing to do that. I want to thank Victor Scher as serving as a liaison to the Men's Club. So I'm going to speak just a little bit before we get started about the activities of the Social Justice Committee. We have had several speaker series in the past 2 years. Our first speaker series dealt with biases, and that was a very successful program which addressed lots of different types of biases. And that program was administered by Ron Koppel, who's also administering our new speaker series, which is called I Never Thought of It That Way. Our next program in the I Never Thought of It That Way series will be on April 17th. And by coincidence, a sign-up email was sent out this afternoon for that program. The speaker is named Henry Koppel, and he's going to talk about incitement, genocide, and terrorism. It should be a fascinating program. I also wanted to highlight some of the other activities that the Social Justice Committee has engaged in. We're one of the congregations that participates in RAC, Illinois. That's the program of Reform congregations under the jurisdiction of the Religious Action Center. And we have worked with them over the past several years in getting the Illinois General Assembly to pass legislation which we felt is part of our mission about furthering social justice. And then lastly, the last thing I want to mention is that if you have any interest in social justice issues, we would love you to join our committee. So now I'm going to turn the program over to Rabbi Tachman for a blessing.
Hi, everyone. So nice to see you all. So grateful that you joined this really important program. Thanks to Scott Fisher, to Judy Myers, Mickey Koppel, to the entire Tzedek committee, and to Vic Scher and the Men's Club for bringing this program tonight. Also, thanks to Steve Rosenblum, Robert Kaplan, Mark Friedman, Matthew Smith, and Barry Altshuler, candidates, local candidates, and good luck to everyone at this time. There's 2 questions that are often asked. One is, as Jews, are we commanded to vote? And 2, is there a blessing for voting? And to answer both of those questions in short, there's no mention of voting in the Torah or the Talmud that I know of. But it is an obligation for us to help perfect the world and to act upon our sacred values. So voting in many respects is is in line with what we do as Jews. And there's not an official blessing as well in the Talmud or the Torah, but there is a blessing that I found that was created, thanking God for the special for the opportunity to live in a country where we have an opportunity to vote freely. The blessing goes, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, shemit sapeh me'itanu asok be'avodat ezrachut hamedina. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who expects us to engage as citizens in our country. And may these words encourage us to, if we haven't voted, to go forth and vote. And we wish a good outcome for our candidates and for our community. Amen.
Amen.
Back to Scott Fisher.
Thank you, Rabbi. The Social Justice Committee is very fortunate to have a number of very committed, very hardworking, and very competent members. Tonight's program was developed by one of these people, Judy Myers. Judy has great expertise in elections. She has been sharing her expertise on the Social Justice Committee Tikvah webpage for the past several years. And she made the case, along with the Frankels, about how important local elections are. And this advocacy about the importance of local elections was why our committee decided that it would be so appropriate to have a program talking about local elections. We are so grateful that Judy's taken the lead in designing this evening's program. So now it's my pleasure to turn the program over to our main host, Judy Myers.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And good evening, everyone. It's so wonderful to see so many interested members from our community and outside of our community as well. There's a couple of people there who, and it's wonderful to see them engage with our congregation. I want to emphasize that the purpose of tonight's program is to provide knowledge and insights on municipal elections. And these insights and knowledge are coming from a select few of our very own Beth Tikvah members who have experienced serving in local positions and are currently running for local positions. And we'll hear more about that from each of them. This forum is meant to be informational and inspirational, to get out and vote in our municipal elections. Panelists are not here to get votes. So we'll start by facilitating specific questions among our panelists. And throughout the program, we'll also interject some fun polls to get everybody into the voting spirit. And I want to let everybody know that participating in the polls is anonymous. None of your responses will ever be recorded, just so you know. Now I want to introduce my co-leader in all the voting rights and protection activities and initiatives and programming through our Senate committee, and that is Mickey Koppel, the very competent and wonderful and fun Mickey Koppel. She is going to be moderating the chat feature of our Zoom, and that's where we'd love for our audience members to submit questions for the panelists. And we'll take a break throughout the program, and Mickey will be able to ask a question that has been submitted through chat. And then if we have time at the end, we'll hopefully be able to take a few questions directly from the audience. Okay, so Mickey, is there anything that you want to add about that chat and moderation? Okay, great. One housekeeping item is that we ask that everyone mute and remain muted throughout the program. We have a feature that does that, but just in case, you can take yourself off mute. and we'll make sure to alert you to that. We appreciate the courtesy and everyone's respect throughout this program. So to help set the stage, I do want to just briefly give a definition of a municipal election, also called local elections, but really to emphasize that it's called a municipal election. And it's an election in which offices held cover and represent local areas and community resources. For instance, schools, libraries, state and regional organizations, property and sales taxes, city council and township governments, housing and business zoning, and roads, to name several of the issues and items that could be on a ballot. So it's important to note that municipal elections are nonpartisan. And what we mean by that is candidates run independently and do not represent a particular political party. So we're proud to have 5 members from our Temple congregation who are so passionate and want to represent the communities at large, and we'll get started. So I want to have each panelist take a moment to introduce themselves and tell us your name and what position you serve, and I'll call on each of you. So we'll start alphabetically with Barry Altschuler.
Thank you, Judy. Welcome, everybody. It's great to see Temple members. It's not the high holidays, but we get to see smiling faces. So I'm Barry Altschuler. I live in Barrington, and I'm running for the Barrington School Board. I'm currently on the school board. I'm the secretary of the school board. I was elected 4 years ago. School board positions last for 4 years. So our school board has 3 positions up this year. They had 4 positions up 2 years ago. Those people will then be up for re-election in 2 years. So I'm running for Barrington School Board, and thank you all for coming.
All right, Mark.
Hi, I'm Mark Friedman. I'm running for re-election at the Hoffman Estates Park District Board. I was elected 2 years ago to fulfill a 2-year term. Now I'm running for a 4-year term. What else do you want? Been a Beth Tikvah member for 30 plus years, 35 years, but a local sports coach for 35 years, whatever.
That's great. Great. Robert.
All right, Robert Kaplan. I am running for my 3rd term, my 3rd 4-year term as Hoffman Estates Park District Board of Commissioners. I'm currently the vice president of the board. I'm a past president of the board, and are looking forward to serving the community further in my 3rd term and see what happens after that. But appreciate everybody being here, and I love serving with my Temple member and good friend, Mark Friedman.
All right, Steve.
Well, thank you to the Beth Tikvah Senate Committee and Men's Club for hosting and inviting us to attend, and great working with you, Judy, on putting this all together. So I am currently vice president of the High School District 211 School Board. I was appointed in 2017 to replace someone who resigned, and then I ran in 2019. So I'm finishing up my first full term, and I'm running for re-election. And I also want to mention, it's so great to see so many. I didn't realize how many people I was going to know on this Zoom call, and I know almost everybody on here. So it's really great to see all of you, and thanks for coming.
Thank you. And Matthew.
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm Matthew Smith. I'm running for Schaumburg Township District Library Trustee. This is my first time running for this position. I'm not elected to anything, so it seems like I'm the new guy on the block here, and I'm looking forward to getting to know all of you through this. So, yeah.
Great. What a wonderful variety of backgrounds and experience. And we're looking forward, Matthew, to hear more about what you anticipate.
Yeah.
All right. So before we proceed, we're going to do our first 2 polls. And what'll happen is you'll see a question appear on the screen, and along with answers. And you'll be able to choose your answer by clicking on it with your mouse. And again, your answers do remain anonymous. Okay, Scott, can you lead us through the first two polls?
Here is poll number 1. Give people 5 more seconds to vote, and then we'll close the poll. 3, 4, 5. Okay, now I'm going to end it, and now after this works, you will see the results. Do you see the results?
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I think I want everyone to keep these results in mind because it will be significant in connection with a later poll question. Okay, so now I'm going to close this one and see if I can get to poll number 2.
All right. Do you want to read
Okay.
the question, Scott?
I'm sorry?
Do you want to read the question, Scott?
Sure. What percentage of registered voters typically participate in municipal elections? And on this one, there's a number of choices, but you can only select one. Okay, I'll give you 5 more seconds. 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, so it looks like the plurality went to between 5 and 20%. And Judy, do we share the answers also, the correct answers?
Well, between 5 and 20% is the right selection based on the latest information from the Cook County clerk. And it showed that as of 2021, there were 14% of registered voters who voted in the last municipal election. So this is really significant because in our first poll of everybody who answered, it was what 93% said that they voted in municipal elections. So it's great that we represent such a high turnout in voting. Okay.
Okay.
Great. So we're going to get back to questions for our panelists. And the first one I'm going to ask, actually the first two, I'd like to give each panel member an opportunity to respond, and I'll call on each of you. So the first question is, why should we participate in municipal elections, and how do they impact us? So I'm first going to call on Matthew to give us a response.
Sure. So why it's so important to vote in municipal elections is because when you think of the big politicians, right, the people who come to mind, the president, the senator, ultimately, you know, think about what they've done that has really affected your life. For me, I couldn't name, more than 5 things off the top of my head they've passed on the federal level that has affected me personally or has affected my children. But I can certainly name, I could write a book about all the things on the local level that affect me in my everyday life, from, the policies at my kids' school and the way that they're treated, to the roads that I drive on. And in my case, for what I'm running for, what's going to be available in our libraries. So it's something that I think people, if they think, we're going to be plugged into politics, if they want to be a political person, they see the top of the ticket and they really pay attention to that, but they don't realize down ballot, the people that are there affect them much, much more.
Thank you. Steve?
Thanks. So local, like everybody's been talking about already, local elections have a much lower turnout than elections for higher offices. As a result, it can take even fewer votes to make a difference in the results. For instance, I know someone who ran for local office 2 years ago and won by 15 votes. And on the other side, I know someone that lost by 40 votes. So every vote counts. So this is a great example of people who say, oh, my vote doesn't count, right? Or I'm just one of many. This is huge. Now more than ever, local elections are impacting us. Like Matt said, they impact our school safety from the school perspective. They impact safety, curriculum, programs, facilities, and much more. And like Judy was saying, property taxes, local laws, home values, law enforcement and safety for us and our families, businesses, land and community developments, which I'll talk to in a little bit about what's going on over in Arlington Heights, and so much more. So as a community, we have a right and responsibility to make our voices heard. This is by voting for people in our community. These are our neighbors and our friends that are running to represent us. So like Judy had said, these are non-partisan positions. So that means people running aren't under a political party. It doesn't mean that they're not a member or tend to vote for a specific political party, but it means they're not running as one party, should not be taking contributions from them. So often these are grassroots funded campaigns, and people are running to represent everybody in the community, regardless of who you like, who you don't like, whether you're of one party affiliation or another, or one religion or another, those kinds of things. So these are hugely important. I'll give you an example, real quick example. I just got called by my mortgage company today that my mortgage payments are going up, and they're going up because of taxes, right? And I know how important voting for those and voting for people who will represent us and our concerns and thoughts in how they choose and legislate are so important. So that's my take on local elections. It's hugely important.
Okay, Robert, let's hear from you.
So everything we see, I'm from Hoffman Estates, so everything in Temple's and Hoffman Estates, but everything we see in our community is talked about, ruled about, and people have made decisions about, where the road's going to be in front of Beth Tikvah, how many parks we're going to have. Is this park going to have facilities? Is this park not going to have facilities? When are we going to fix them? So none of this stuff happens without people actually taking local office and actually making these decisions. And because we have people that we sit next to, and we can see there's 5 of us here that all of you know, and not everybody's in the same district. Like Steve's district covers a lot more than my small park district covers, that kind of thing. But all of us affect everything that goes on in your lives, in the library, and the school board, the park district, the mayor's office, the trustees. That's not being done here today, but the trustees, there's a contested election for the trustees on the Village of Hoffman Estates board. So everything that we see, touch, and get, and what are normal every day, and whether the jewel, we're going to put a jewel in here, and Hoffman Estates just got a Dairy Queen, you know, so that all happens because of local leaders. And we need to go ahead and pay attention to this and vote for them. And that's why.
Thank you. Mark, how about you?
I've had 3 people speak very eloquently about the community and why you get involved. And it is the community, I think, Judy. You have to know the people around you. You have to represent the people around you, represent their views, their values to a large degree, and act on those. I found myself in that position for a long time. Same with Beth Tikvah. And I served on the executive board as well. So I'll echo the same sentiments of the gentleman in front of me.
Thank you. Barry.
Yes, so I agree. Being the last one, I can say I agree with what has been said already. You know, we represent our community values. I've spent the last couple weekends walking around the neighborhoods, talking to people in my neighborhood or in my community, and it surprises me how disengaged they are. You know, their homes are warm, their light is on, their electricity is on, and they don't realize what's happening, whether it is in the libraries, in the schools. You know, just all the local things that really affect their day-to-day. It's already been said, schools, parks, library, roads, police and fire. If you look at your property tax bill, your local property tax bill funds all these people that you're going to elect now. We're responsible for being good stewards of your money and making sure that we get, you know, that each of you gets your money's worth for, you know, what you're spending, whether it's paying for the teachers, you know, paying for the lights in the schools, you know, paying for the books in the library. So it's very important, actually. And, you know, until I really joined the board, I didn't realize how important these kind of local issues are. And we need to represent our localities to do the best job we can so that our property values stay up and that our, you know, community is happy and it becomes a destination when other people want to buy in. They look at the schools and the libraries, and that's what gives your home value. So it's important. These jobs are very important.
Thank you, Barry. While you're still on, Barry, can you give us some insight on the day-to-day, or how does serving on a local position really, what skills does it require? What does it require when you're working on, you know, as that position versus everything else that you do?
Yeah, well, thank you. I have to say, when I ran 4 years ago, I didn't realize the time commitment. I'm not saying that to complain, but it really is a very busy kind of job. So we have just the school board. We have two board meetings a month, every month. And then we have subcommittees that we have joined. I'm on the facilities committee. I'm on the insurance committee. I'm on the referendum committee. We just passed a referendum to build, you know, to add on to our schools. So those each have their own meetings. Some are Zoom, some are in person. The preparation, though, for the meetings, specifically the board meetings, is very labor intensive. I usually take most of the weekend before our Tuesday board meeting to go over all the information that gets sent to us from the district, to be prepared with budget questions, or if there are tough votes that are coming up, we might talk amongst ourselves and, you know, try to dissect exactly why we're voting the way we're voting, or, you know, what the issues are. So, and then of course I'm available. We have a district email address, and people are always sending us emails. Of course, friends that know my phone number are calling at home to discuss you know, their views or their issues, or, you know, what they want us to make sure we're covering. So, you know, it in itself is a, you know, full-time job. Some of my fellow board members are either retired or they work part-time so they can work from home. But having a full-time job, which I'm still doing as a physician, and this is almost like a full-time job, it really does become, you know, labor intensive, and you just have to balance your time. I mean, I'm not saying this to complain. I feel I'm very organized, and I want to do a good job. When you ask what makes a good board member, you know, you want to be diligent. You want to make sure that you're prepared for the meeting. You want to be collaborative. That is, you want to talk to your fellow board members and make sure that everybody's communicating. You want to be a good listener. And you certainly want to look out for your community. You want to communicate with your community to make sure that you know what is important to them. As I say, we represent the community values. So.
Thank you, Barry. Hey, Steve, what about you? What's your day-to-day like?
So Barry, thank you for all that you just said. So first of all, I want everybody here to know that all 5 of us are in or running for volunteer positions, right? I've had people actually email me and say, you know, they disagreed with something that I did or something I voted on or something I said, and they should cut my salary in half. And I said, go for it, right? Because half of nothing is nothing. So we do this because of our passion, desire, interest, and true love of serving our community. It pays just as much as a board member at Temple. So can I say that? So those of you, and I know many of you on this discussion tonight are former or current board members. So you know personally what it's like. And like Barry said, it takes hours of preparation, which we love to do, right? It's not a complaint. It fills up all of our free time. We need to stay learned to what's going on in the community, out in the community. I can honestly say of all the board members of District 211, I am the most out in the community and out at our schools, attending programs and meetings and sports activities and things like that, and performing arts programs, and I drag my wife along. Ellen loves coming to those things too. At least I think she does. But it really takes a strong commitment. I think I'm well prepared for tonight, but I'm also well prepared to go to board meetings. And like Barry said, we read through all these emails we get, we read through the agenda, we do research and preparation so that we're educated and able to act intelligently on behalf of the community. And a lot of it, the other night I was meeting a couple who have a son who was having difficulties in our schools, met him at a Dunkin' Donuts at 7 o'clock at night, right? So you're doing things, and it truly is a dedication and passion in order to be able to do that. But it's important to know that we're volunteers and we're doing this to serve the community, just like board members to serve our congregation.
Thanks, Steve. Mark, can you tell us something that you enjoy about serving in your elected position?
First of all, thank you for not asking me the same question you asked the other 3. I appreciate that. What do I enjoy about my position? I'm sorry, Judy.
Yes. What do you enjoy?
It's interesting. Robert and I serve on a board of 7 members. We all bring something a little bit different to the board. Some of us are involved in different things personally, but we all have the same kind of a goal. I think that I am most pleased about being able to work with people that have the same vision as I do, to have open parks. I don't know if that came from grad school in my Daniel Burnham days of open, free, and clear parks. I came to the park districts later. I served as a community rep for 10 years on the Buildings and Grounds Committee before I actually stepped foot in getting involved in it, being a commissioner. And much like Steve said, much like Barry says, a lot of preparation is involved. I enjoy, I think, the responsibility. I enjoy the leadership role. I took a leadership role at Beth Tikvah for 14 years in the exec board. I'm accustomed to that. I enjoy that. I embrace that. And it's good to represent people, and like I said, in a common goal for open parks. And I just love the role. I like going to the meetings. I think I add something to it. And being a coach and getting input from parents and kids about the facilities is also very good, because I can bring that to the board.
Okay, Robert, I think I'm going to put you on the spot. Can you tell us anything or things that annoy you or diminish your passion for your position?
Oh, you are putting me on the spot. What, okay, let me think of what I don't like. Got to be honest with you, it's a political organization, obviously. We're elected officials. It's so sometimes probably the process of the politics sometimes can be a little bit frustrating because you want to kind of like jump to the answer, but you can't jump to the answer, you know, because you got to go through step 1, step 2, step 3. But all in all, I really do enjoy what I'm doing. I think I'm fortunate. The board members, the 7 board members we have at on the Park District are pretty much focused on the same thing. We don't all agree with each other, which I'm going to turn it around and say that's one of the things I do like, actually, is that we don't all agree with each other, because that way we can get to probably what is the best answer for the community, because we don't agree with each other. But I really can't say there's anything specifically that I really, you know, makes it not fun for me. It is fun. We've kind of changed our process. We used to have meetings that used to go to 11, 12 o'clock at night. Those were not that much fun, I'll say. But now that we don't have that issue very much anymore. So no, I can't really say there's any one specific thing. I think we're all kind of headed in the same direction, and I do enjoy that.
Mhm. Okay. Hey, Matthew, I'm gonna do a little twist on the question. And since you're new, do you anticipate anything that may get in the way of serving, or you know, that just may be a challenge for you?
Sure, certainly. One of the things that is going to be challenging, but is also a very big reason of why I'm running, is because things, as Robert mentioned, are so political now. You know, when I grew up, I turned 18 in 2008, and I remember going in to vote in the primary and having to ask which political party Barack Obama was a part of to vote in the primary, because that's who I wanted to vote for. And it seems now every facet of life is so political that people can't separate things like libraries from this culture war politics that they rage on, you know, that they see on whatever news source that they watch. And so that I expect to be a challenge, is that, like, moving forward, I think, unfortunately, it's going to get more and more political. And we're going to see more and more of these, even in a nonpartisan race, more partisan feelings bubble up to the surface.
Mm. Okay, thanks everybody for your candor and your honesty on these questions. You know, it's time for another poll. So Scott, take it away.
Okay, poll number 3. Where do you get information about candidates and issues? On this poll, you can vote for multiple answers. Okay, 3 more seconds. 2, 3. All right. So we see lots of different sources of information, and I want to point out something that Pam Altman shared with us, which was very important, and it was an oversight on our part. Research on the internet as a source of information about candidates and issues. I think Pam was very accurate in indicating that's another good source of information.
So it looks like newspapers
Yeah,
are very popular.
yeah, that's the plurality there.
And
Will you remind me where the Tikvah ranked in terms of?
0, but I think that's a good thing. You know, it's like we want to be nonpartisan. We strive to be nonpartisan and neutral information.
I would think that some people would put down the Tikvah because we've done a great job in alerting people when the next election is.
Yes. But you know what I found surprising is word of mouth, which is just as high as social media, and you know, a little more than mail, which I can definitely understand that. But that's it's interesting to me. I find that interesting, that word of mouth, really, you know, so it's all about connections and relationships. Okay. So we want to, I just want to take a second, and Mickey, is there any question that's been submitted in the chat that we could ask?
Actually, there's one, and then I'm going to ask a question. So let me open up the chat here. First of all, I'll also mention Anne's comment regarding the last poll, and she says online newspapers are only popular with people over 60, over the 60 crowd. And Ron and I do get 2 newspapers during the week and 4 on the weekends, so I'm in that crowd. Sorry, Anne. I love reading the newspaper. So one question we have is whether or not, if somebody wants to address why municipal elections are important if we, the voters, are just very happy with the way things are going. Somebody would like to answer that.
Sure. I mean, oh, sorry, go ahead. Oh, yeah, sure. I mean, if we're happy with the way things are going, unfortunately, on local issues, you don't know that you've got a problem with something that's happening until it's already happened. So just so that you all know, I moved here around 2 years ago from the Indianapolis area, and I was on the Board of Zoning Appeals and Advisory Planning Commission for my local city. And I can't tell you how many times I would be approached by someone in the community, and they would say something along the lines of, well, I didn't know that was going on, that this rezoning was happening, or that you were going to give this this variance to this person's property. You know, these things that end up in your backyard, if you're not trying to pay attention, sometimes they can slip by you.
So I would say, even,
Want to respond?
I guess I can add something to that. So tagging on what Matt said, what I was going to say is it's also important. People have to, not just at election time, but people need to understand that during the 2 years between elections, people need to stay attuned and pay attention and go to these village meetings, the various different boards that we're all on. And that's where you can find out a lot about what's going on. And I don't expect people to go to every single meeting, but there's a way to keep in touch and kind of plugged in. And I think the citizenry really needs to do that, because the local, it's very important. Make sure you know what's going on locally, not just kind of show up every 2 years.
And I'll add something else. And even if you're satisfied with the way things are, the elected officials can change. And when the elected officials change, their values, I hate this word, some people have agendas, and what, you know, what they can do can change your situation. So that's why it's important in local elections to vote and to learn about the people who are running, to make sure that those that you are voting for will take care of you and your interests and that of the community. And like I said, some positions are 2 years, some positions are 4 years. And depending on how the votes go, it can change, it can significantly change the look of that particular organization.
Before I go on to the next question, anyone else want to comment?
Yeah, I'd like to add something. It's nice when everything is going well, but I have to say my 4 years on the board has been kind of rocky. I mean, we went through COVID, and there was a segment of our community that did not want us to close the schools, even though, the Board of Health said we had to close our schools. There's a segment of our community that was very insulted that we would have their kids masked for a time after we reopened the schools. And now that same segment of the community is talking about banning books and getting rid of equity, and there's a part of the community that really is buying into that. They're thinking that we don't really listen to them, and we have our, I think the word Steve used was agenda. And so even though our schools, in my opinion, are doing well, and our grades are doing well, and our students seem happy, not everybody is happy with that. And those are the issues that we're debating now with this current election. So even when things are going well, people find something to complain about, and the problem is differentiating between opinions and facts. People state opinions like they're facts. It was our fault that COVID ruined the education, or that's a fact. No, that's your opinion. So not to be negative, but even when I think things are going well, there's still people that have an undercurrent of dissension, and we're seeing that now with this election.
Judy, is there time for one more question? If not, we can do it at the end. There's time? Okay, then actually, this is my question. And that is, after we did the poll in terms of the percentage of people that run or vote in a municipal election, statistically, I think it's around 16%, at least in our general area. How do we get people to participate more? I mean, the whole purpose of why we're running this discussion tonight is to really tell people why it's important to vote in a municipal election. And we saw from the poll that the majority of us do, but we're a minority among the community. And what can be done to increase I realize voting in general, you don't get as many people as you'd like, but in these particular elections, what can be done to increase the number of people that participate in the elections?
The biggest, sorry, go ahead, Barry.
I was just going to say, I mean, the biggest thing is just word of mouth. I've been walking door to door, knocking on doors, and people are like, oh, there are issues in this election. I think I'd better vote this time. Having coffees, having friends email friends who email their friends, just to let people know that there are issues, and that gives people a reason to want to vote. If there aren't any issues and everybody's happy, as was just asked about, then there isn't as much motivation. But if there is either the threat of change or imminent change, or you're truly unhappy with, maybe our mayor really didn't do a good job these last 4 years, you gotta, use your mouth and walk to the polling or whatever and vote. You vote with your feet, and you gotta make sure that people respond to what your needs are and what your perceptions are of what the community needs. So.
And I'll follow up to Barry's point. It is truly getting the word out, right? So it is word of mouth. Tell all your friends, tell all your neighbors. If you see something come on social media, share it, like it. If you see something in the newspaper, call your friends and say, hey, did you see, whatever the story was about? If you have concerns, tell your friends and your neighbors and your family members your concerns and how important it is to get out and cast your vote and make a difference. I've knocked on thousands of doors in the last few months, and I'm also a big phone banker. So, I'm getting the word out, but tomorrow I'll be on the phone. I don't know if I have any of you on my list, but I spoke to someone last week, and when I called her, she said, no, I don't live in Chicago. And I said, no, I'm not calling about Chicago. She was so caught up in the mayoral race in Chicago that she wasn't even thinking about her own neighborhood, right? So people are paying attention to politics, but they need to pay attention to local politics. I'll never forget. So if you see my car drive around the neighborhood, it's quite likely these days that it has a vote for Stephen Rosenblum sign on the side of it. But I was parked at work 4 years ago, and somebody came up to me in the hallway and said, gosh, Steve, I didn't know you were a politician. Well, I don't consider myself a politician. I consider myself a representative of the community, right? On this particular board that I'm on. And I know that, my friends, Mark, Robert, and a couple other people on the Hoffman Estates Park District Board, they have it good. They're all about fun. I wish I was always about fun, but it certainly makes
fun.
Yeah, people love fun. So it makes our lives a little bit easier, but they also have controversies, right? They have, how much are you spending on our parks, and why is that playground not functioning a certain way, or why does the health club not have certain things, or whatever the case might be. So we all have issues, and if somebody truly cares about what happens outside their home, they should care about these local elections. And all you can do is encourage them. Some people that I met last weekend knocking on doors up in Palatine, because I live down in Schaumburg, were that they didn't even know there was an election coming up, right? So there's, in the end, there's only so much you can do. I applaud all of you for coming onto this program tonight to learn more about it. But really, I encourage you and ask you to help us get the word out of these very, very important elections that are taking place right now and go through April 4th.
I think another way too that we've gotten the word out, Stephen, you alluded to that, is knocking on doors. I know Robert and I both had to get 1,100 names on petitions in order to get on the ballot. I don't know what you had to get. I think you had to get a little less than that. You've been very good in staying in front of people. After Robert and I got ours, we got to hand them in quickly and move along. But that's another way. I was astounded by how many people didn't know where they lived, district they lived in, whether they were registered or not. Oh, I voted a few years ago. Is that still good? Oh, I lived in Schaumburg and moved to Palatine. Is that still good? People just don't know, and you have to educate people along when you see them. So getting signatures and petitions is certainly one way of informing the populace.
All right, thank you. Go
Could I
ahead.
say one thing about that too? I'm sorry.
Yeah, absolutely, jump in.
Yeah, so one thing that I did want to mention on that topic of discussion is people's motivations to vote. I know for me, I get very motivated when I see that some of the people running have, what's the nice way to say kooky ideas? That the people that are espousing things that are either running for these positions or that are showing up to these meetings and making their voice, even though they are an extreme minority in the community, making it seem like that they're more than they are just because they speak up. And they can do that in these platforms because there are so few people that are engaged until, you have some big event like, for example, the District 211 stuff has been pretty contentious, and now people are starting to pay attention to some of those kooky candidates. And unfortunately, I think one of the best ways to motivate people is to let them know, hey, look, there are these people that have assigned these motives to us that are not true. I'm sure nobody on the call here understands what it's like to have your motives questioned by just the I know for me in Indianapolis, where I was running before, where I was in a position like this, similar to this, that they would take my faith and make that an issue. of it, saying that there was some kind of nefarious reason behind some conspiracy behind it because of my faith. And so, yeah, I said, just to mention that, you know, if some people think, oh, well, you know, it doesn't matter a whole lot, everything's going fine. Really, it just takes one election to change that for the worse.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Okay, let's go back to a couple of more specific questions that I have. Who would like to tell us about a problem that you've encountered serving as a local official and how you've handled that? I know a lot of this has been discussed in previous questions, but maybe a one specific problem and how you solve that. Who'd like to share?
Well, I can give you a kind of an anecdote, I guess, a little bit. We at the Park District, several years ago, trying to foresee what was going to be coming on the horizon and having activities for that, decided that it was time to convert over from tennis to pickleball. And if some of you remember, out at the now called the club, we had 3 tennis courts, and we don't have 3 tennis courts anymore. And so there was a very contentious situation among the tennis players, and I'm going to say there was maybe about 60 tennis players, one of whom was actually a very prominent member of our congregation, a very well-liked man who I had great respect for. But he was a tennis player and tennis was going away, and that was something the commissioners had decided. But we had a lot of meetings. We had, you know, town hall meetings. And I was the president of the Park District at the time, and we went through numerous meetings of talking about and having people come. And that was one of those nights where we were there till 11 o'clock, and it was very contentious. And then situations like that, just it was a very interesting trying to get through it and not have everybody be totally upset, because not everybody was going to be happy. We think we picked the right thing. Pickleball seems very, very popular. And not that tennis isn't a good game, but it's not quite the popularity of pickleball at the time. And what we did in trying to solve the problem for the tennis players is we tried to create a place where they could go play tennis. And I believe it was at the Hanover Park. I think Hanover Park District has a tennis facility. So our members, we got them able to go play tennis there. They really wanted to play tennis. So that was just one incident that we had. That was, I mean, I know it's park stuff and it's tennis courts, but people were still very, very upset.
Wow. Who would have thought?
Exactly.
Anybody else like to share?
To take something out of the board. Oh, sorry, it was someone.
No, I was just gonna say, Robert held himself very well during those meetings, by the way.
Okay, now I got to say one thing, which I'm going to give credit to Beth Tikvah, because having been because I am a past president at Beth Tikvah, gave me that experience at Beth Tikvah enabled me to do a lot of what I did when I was the president in Hoffman Estates Park District. So I thank everybody.
Yay. All right, Matthew.
Yeah, so like I was saying, I haven't been on the board, but I can tell you about a recent issue that's come up on the board and how I would handle it if I were there, because I've been attending the meetings, and I can tell you something that we've recently discussed on the library board, and that's Juneteenth. Juneteenth was just added as a federal holiday, and the American Libraries Association and the Chicago Central Library both have decided that they're going to be closed on Juneteenth. And so I don't know if many people know this, the Schaumburg Township District Library is the second largest library system in all of Illinois. It's massive. And so a lot of what we do, the decisions that we make, affect the decisions downstream for a lot of libraries in the state, because they look to us for that kind of decision making. And the discussion was around, there were really two sides. One side that said, if the American Library Association and the Chicago Library are going to close, we should also close. And the other side that said, and this is a direct quote from one of the board members, they already have Martin Luther King Day. which to me seemed like an insensitive take. Personally, where I stood on, if I were on the board at the time, where I would have suggested that we go is to appoint a floating holiday. So instead of closing the library that day, for people who are wonderful employees and deserve a break during this federal holiday, this newest federal holiday, that they can take that if they so wish. But if they would not like to take that, then they don't have to. And there's enough. I think that gives enough respect to the people who would like to celebrate that holiday, and also to the people who would not like to celebrate the holiday on the day or don't have any plans on that day, to give them this floating holiday that they can use elsewhere. But that's the kind of problem solving that I'd like to bring to the board.
Thank you. Anybody else?
So being on the District 211 school board for 5.5 years, I almost take this as a where should I start, right? So in 2017, when I got on the board, we were the central point for the country in a federal lawsuit against transgender rights in schools. Equal access to locker rooms, equal access to bathrooms, equal access to educational programs and clubs. And so we had 350 people on average coming to our board meetings. We had to move to cafeterias in the schools because we couldn't hold them all in our 150-person boardroom. And I voted in favor of the equal access and educational opportunities policy that we put in place, recognizing sexual identity and gender for our students. And it became a policy that we followed, and it has been, in my opinion, very successful in support of our students, That's what it was all about. Now we are faced with things that Matt has brought up around banning books from our libraries, not allowing students access to educational material and curriculum because a group of parents don't want their children to have it, even though they have an opt-out option for parental choice and not have their children participate in that. But something I really want to talk about that I have been dealing with for 5.5 years, and if reelected, I will continue to do so. And I'll never forget when I first got elected and I came to one of our functions at Temple, and somebody came up to me and said, "I'm so glad you're on the board to represent us." Right? Well, I represent everyone, as I said, but also represent our perspective from a faith-looking area, and that is diversity. And one thing I have pushed in our schools is recognizing the diverse student population and staff population and community in which we all live and serve. And I have done things like things that my kids had to go through, and perhaps some of yours did, around songs sung at choir concerts or performed in band concerts. When are football games and when are tests being administered in our schools? And I have pushed very hard, and I'm making some headway. And now I'm met with when they're putting the next year's calendar together, so that students and staff don't have to make a decision regarding their religious observations for holidays and school functions. And I am huge on that and have continued to push, and I'm making a lot of great headway in that. A lot of it is communicating to the staff and the administrators as to what those needs are. Just the other day, I was telling Ellen about this the other day for Passover, for Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur, I got the administration to understand that Jewish holidays are from sunset to sunset. I made that headway, right? I got that going, but they didn't understand that Yom Kippur is a fasting holiday. And at the end of Yom Kippur, everybody goes over to somebody's house, or a lot of people go somewhere and they break fast, right? So she planned a program at 7 o'clock on the day of Yom Kippur, thinking it's after sunset, so we can do a program and have a meeting. And I said, no, that's going to cause a lot of conflict for people of the Jewish faith. And she said, but I thought you said it's sunset to sunset. I said, well, it is, but there's other things too, right? And it's not just Jewish holidays, but it's it's holidays representing all of the faiths in our community. And so now she says to me, can you give me a list of the holidays? I tell her, you can Google it yourself, but we go through them and we talk about them to make sure that we're truly representing our diverse community and everybody is represented in that. So that's something that I know I'm going to continue to deal with, but that's okay. That's something I'm very, very in favor of doing.
All right, thank you for that. Anybody else want to contribute? Okay, the next question I have is, what do you think is the most important function of the board that you serve on or are going to serve on? All things considered, what do you think is the most important function?
I'll start. I mean, if I had to pick one thing, it would be communicating with the community. As a school board member, I'm kind of the bridge between the administration. The school board hires the superintendent and supervises his or her, administration, and the community. And so I think if I had one, I mean, whatever the subject, whether it's book banning, whether it's curriculum, whether it's budget, we're kind of the bridge between the community and the administration. And I think that's, the most important thing we can do is make sure that we're serving both sides equally and, being fair and communicating well.
Barry, what are some of the ways that the board does communicate? Like newsletters?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, we have a very good kind of public media person within the district. So, the day after a board meeting, the whole board meeting, there's an outline. I mean, people could zoom in and see it the next day, but there's an outline of everything we talked about, whether it's a change in the calendar or honoring the national merit semifinalists, or, I mean, whatever it is, we talked about it at the board meeting, we share it with the community. But again, it's using our emails when people have concerns, especially in the community, to make sure they get to us right away so that we can, again, be the bridge. It's not that we want to make major changes. We just want to make sure that everybody, the community and the administration, is aware of what the needs are or what the issues are at the time. So, again, the key word is communication, however we do that, but a lot of social media, a lot of telephone, a lot of emails, and, together we do a pretty good job of getting the word out.
Thank you. Anybody
I
else?
want to add something in. So, I know me and Mark Friedman obviously are going to agree on the one thing I'm going to say to start with, but for Barry and Steve and Matt, you guys can fill in. But at the Park District, we have an executive director. So that's actually our one employee as a board. We employ the executive director. He employs the rest of the staff, 70 odd people, full-time, and then about many more part-time. He employs them to do everything that we're going to do in the Park District. So we're like a board of trustees to him, and we deal with the global scope of the Park District, not the day-to-day activities of the Park District. So our job is to deal with Craig Talisman is a very good executive director. I'll give him credit here at this meeting. And we deal with him in what the policies are and what we're doing going forward. We try to stay out of the day-to-day activities of, how many towels are in the towel room and, that kind of thing, and where the weight machines are going to be. Try to stay out of that. So I'm not sure that. Sounds like as you guys talk, maybe Steve and Barry, maybe you guys are more involved in the day-to-day activities than we are.
No, I actually think we try to stay out of the day-to-day. Like you employ one, we actually employ one employee also, the superintendent.
Okay.
But we have a lot of involvement with his executive staff and,
Right.
Interact with them also. But he's really the one we employ. And then he works on the contracts for the administrators and decides what kind of raises they should get. And we ultimately have to okay it because we're we hold the purse strings. So no, I think it's important for the board to stay out of the day-to-day. I think that's a mistake when some of these board members get, they dive into way too deeply. I think it's a mistake, actually.
Right, okay, so it's a similarly run organizations then.
Robert, I think
and
they're
to your-
considerably larger.
And Robert, to your point, we're, school boards are also 7 members. It's statewide, 7 members.
Right.
Because I serve on some state committees, I know downstate, they go out begging people to be on their school boards. We don't seem to have that problem up here in the northwest suburbs. But to your point, we're a member of a 7-member organization. In fact, if you ask the Illinois Association of School Boards, they'll tell you that that we're a board of 8, including the superintendent, right?
Okay.
Because we all collaborate and work together. But no single board member, and it's probably this way on, tell me if I'm wrong, on the park district as well. You can't make a decision. You can't take action on behalf of the park board, the park, or in my case, on behalf of the district as an individual board member. So that hugely, so everybody on here knows, another reason why it's important to make educated decisions on who's going to be on the board. It's great that we have debate because it's been brought up. You get down to the root of an issue and be able to make decisions in the best interest of the constituents that we serve. But also we do have to work together, right? It could be a 5-2 vote or a 4-3 vote. But in the end, when that vote is made, the board needs to come behind that vote and support the decision made by the board. And that I'll be honest, that has been a challenge for our school board. And that's why I think, our election is so hugely important. But at the same time, it's good to have those differences and differences of opinion and discussions as a board so that we're able to reach the best decisions on behalf of the students, the staff, and the community. I feel like I'm on a soapbox. Sorry about that, y'all.
Okay.
Wow, I learned so much from this discussion here. Okay, so let's see if we can get all the panelists to answer. What advice do you have for those who may be considering running for office? And Matthew, I'm going to start with you.
Sure. So if you're passionate about your community and you see something that you can help, it seems like a waste not to run, right? Because this community needs people who are passionate about making change for the better. When I moved here a few years ago, one of the first things I did was I understood who to contact in the area if I wanted to start start being active. And since this is a nonpartisan election, I chose to reach out to the local political party that I am affiliated with. For just to drop some names here, if you lean more to the Democratic side, there's Mike Kudzik. If you lean more to the Republican side, that's Joseph Polisi. But those people are there to help guide new people in the community and people who have been in the community for a long time but are interested in running on how to best go about doing that. A lot of times the feedback that I get from them is that they'll say like, people come to us and they just want to run for, it seems like they want to run for president the moment that they talk to us. And their advice is always start small. Like if you're passionate about these issues, that's wonderful. Start at a school board, start at a library board, go talk to your mayor, maybe start at the city level or go talk to your mayor about being on a board of zoning appeals or advisory planning commission. The worst thing that anybody can say is no, right? So yeah, go out there and get it.
All right, Mark, what about you? What advice would you give?
What I would say, if you're interested in the position, certainly attend meetings, go to activities, become part of it before you try to lead it. You have some people jumping in, like Matt said, they want to be president, they want to be governor. That's great. But you got to serve at the local level first. You have your steps you have to take, fortunately or unfortunately. If you want to understand the position, you want to be part of the position and part of the solution, you have to start at the basic place. That's at the very bottom. You have to go to the meetings of the organization you want to belong to and understand what it is, what its purpose, what its focus is, and then one day you can hope to lead it. Part of leadership.
Steve?
No, that's a great question. So I was actually approached to become involved at the political level, at the at a board level. But to both, to Mark's point and Matt's point, ask people, if you know somebody who's currently involved in that organization, give them a call, right? Talk to them, find out more about what do they do, why do they do it. If you have one thing that you shouldn't do, and I hate to be negative on this, is come in with a one agenda purpose. I want to be on the board because this is terrible and I want to get rid of that. Well, there's so much more to being involved with these organizations that you're going to have to also become involved in and wrap your arms around. And it's much more than a one issue type role. So really, to Matt's point, ask questions, learn more about it. To Mark's point, get involved with the organization in some way so that you can learn more about it. And then when you feel ready, take that step, take that leap. And I'm fortunate that I have someone who's actually, not to give away too many secrets, but on the Hoffman Estates Park District Board, who has been kind of a mentor to me on how to run, right? All the I's dotting and T's crossing associated to a campaign, and has been very, very supportive of me all along the process. So it's good to have someone that can help you along.
Barry?
Yeah, I agree with what's been said. Start small. Well, besides for me, refereeing or coaching some of the sports teams when my kids were in school, I joined some board committees. I was on the redistricting committee, which was a way to meet other parents and community members and interact with the board, even though I wasn't in an elected position. And I think I got my name known, and people, of course, having 5 kids in the schools got my name known because they were in all the schools and getting to know the teachers. But again, starting small. Somebody I think mentioned, if you're interested in kind of your local municipality, the zoning committee, or there's a health committee, or there's a parks committee, not even like the park district, but just the smaller committees, just to see what the I hate to use the word politics because it's not necessarily political, but how the gears work, and get to know people and ask questions. Because I am glad I got involved, and I think I could really push some other people locally, my neighbors who are intrigued now that I've been involved, that maybe they want to get involved also. So, just ask questions and talk to people who are already involved. How did you get involved? And, what are the pros and cons of getting involved? And if this is my interest, where would I go? And, so lots of questions, and there's people out there who will answer them for you.
Robert, any advice?
So those were 4 great answers. I think I would only add two things. I would echo Steve's point about that. Don't be a one agenda person. That's not going to win you any friends or favors. Then the other thing I might actually suggest is as far as the park district, there's no better person to call at the park district than the executive director and say, hey, I'd like to get involved. So I would imagine you'd have the same thing with the school superintendent. It would get filtered back down the system, but that's the best person to call, because I know our guy Craig would talk to anybody who called him. So don't be afraid to do that either.
And Judy, I want to bring your question back home to Beth Tikvah. You don't join Beth Tikvah and ask to get on the board of directors. Right? You join Beth Tikvah, you join a committee, you volunteer to help put on a program, a fundraiser, run a meeting, whatever the case is, and work your way into something like that, right? So
All right. Scott, are you ready for another poll?
Sure. So I think we should have a lot of good answers on this one. Correct answers.
Scott, do you want to read the question?
Oh, the question is, can a candidate in a municipal election run as a Republican or Democrat? Okay, looks like we've got most people have answered, so I'll end the poll and share the results. All right, so the vast majority have indicated, 88% indicated no, that you can't run, I guess it says officially as a Republican or a Democrat.
Okay, Mickey, I'm going to toss it over to you. Are there any questions in the chat that we can address first before we go on to the next poll?
So here, there was a comment. If I can get to it, 1 second, please. Okay, the comment was in Tuesday's Daily Herald newspaper, a letter writer wrote about an organization, C4KE, Citizens for Kids Education, that claimed to be a nonpartisan group, but seemed to be backing a group of candidates for the District 211 school board. Given the situation, how is this a nonpartisan election?
So I guess that's me. So the C4K group is a group of citizens, mostly parents from our community that are dissatisfied with the way that our schools are being run and the programs are being offered. They have very specific things that they're looking for from our school district, including limiting books that are available to our students, removing various parts of our sex education programs, and more. And they have been very, very vocal in our school board meetings and to our board. They are backing a group of 4 candidates. They are nonpartisan when it comes to not a political organization. They consider themselves a PAC, so a political action group, but they're not affiliated with a party type system. They're a group of parents who are acting on behalf of a select group of candidates, and so it is nonpartisan because it's not affiliated in that way, but they are absolutely endorsing, supporting, and pushing a select group of candidates who are supportive of their particular ideals and interests. And it's a challenge because not only are they supporting 4 candidates, but they are pushing against 4 other candidates. So my campaign has been to run a positive light as to why I am the best candidate for the board, right? And the value that I think I bring, and not talk negatively about anyone else that is running, but encourage them to do the same. And that doesn't always happen. So this is a very interesting group. My encouragement is that you find out more about every candidate that's running, and based on their values and interests, make the decision that most aligns with your thoughts and interests and what you think is best for the community.
I'd like to piggyback on that. In 220, we also have a PAC. They call themselves the Action PAC, that are supporting 3 candidates. very similar to what Steve said, ban books and let's cut curriculum and let's have bigger class sizes so we can cut taxes. And the PACs have to register with the state of Illinois. So it's very interesting when you look and see where their money's coming from, it's coming from outside of our district. Some very ultra conservative, there was a governor, one of the Republican Rabin who ran for governor, and there's a group called Awake Illinois and Moms for Liberty, and there's a lot of outside organizations that are pouring money into this action pack. So I should say the Barrington Republican organization is backing them pretty strongly. So I think they're teetering on the line between partisan and nonpartisan. And I have to say, one of our current school board members is the treasurer of their PAC. So, he's getting involved in what's supposed to be a nonpartisan independent election. And so, I'm concerned, they deny their partisanship. But, my argument for them is, when you have a tough vote, are you going to vote for the community? Or are you going to vote for the people who are giving you all this money, all this outside influence? We're calling it dark money. Our group of candidates is only raising money in the community. And one of our selling points is we're only going to represent the community. But it's a fine line there. What is partisan and what is not partisan? Our election material that we had to turn into the Cook County it says this is nonpartisan. We didn't have to declare Democrat or Republican or Independent or Green Party, but it's teetering here. I don't believe that my opponents are nonpartisan, and I've made that very clear in some of our candidate debates. So it's frustrating.
I agree, Barry, and to your point, actually the Schaumburg Township Republican Organization has sent an email to all of their members in support of 3 specific people who are running for the District 211 school board. And in my opinion, that goes against everything related to the nonpartisanship of this election.
To Stephen Barry's point, I think they're maybe too nice to say it, but I'm not. Those are the kooks I was talking about just earlier. I think that these groups do this to their detriment because, again, not being registered as a partisan person on this election, if I were able to put the letter next to my name that more associates with the values that I have, I think they shouldn't threaten me with a good time on that, because that the majority of our community lines up with the values that I hold, and not the values of the people who want to ban the books and the people who want to punish children for being who they were born as, which is a trans person or someone in the LGBTQ community. So I think even though, in my opinion, they're the ones pushing the issue forward, they're not going to be very happy with the result if they ultimately get what they want there.
Mickey, is there another question?
Yes, there is. Someone has asked a question. What is the purpose? I realize there's nobody here representing the township, but what is the purpose of the various townships? And what are they responsible for versus, let's say, the county or the village or town that one lives in?
Do we want to go road by road? No, I'm just kidding. Like this one's a county road, this one's a township road. So is there any, perhaps there's someone else better than me to answer that question as to what the purpose of the township is?
As I understand, there's the division of labor, right? I mean, it may surprise some people, the density that we have here. There are more people in Cook County and the collar counties than there are in the entire state of Indiana. And so, and more by about 2 million, I believe. I mean, there are about 6 million people in all of the state of Indiana and 8 million people in Chicagoland here. So there has to be some system of division of labor, and this is really the best that I think we have.
And some other things I'm aware of, senior services and the assessor's office, and there's at least in Schaumburg, there's a great food pantry for needy families and such. And there's space if somebody needs to have, some meeting space and things like that. I know that our local state representative has town hall meetings there. There's job search services that they offer, tax preparation services in case you need somebody to walk through your tax return with you, those kinds of things. So they do offer a lot of great, I don't know if I said senior services, but they have a ride share program or a dial a ride program in a lot of our townships. So they do offer a lot of community services. That seems to be a big thing of what they are. Plus they take care of a lot of our roads, right? From making sure that they're accessible and well taken care of and things like that.
The one-
Fortunately,
Hey,
excuse
go-
me, unfortunately, there's a large duplication of services. There's 102 counties in Illinois. We have, I don't want to get started on this, but we have way too many government employees. There are too many duplications throughout the state, overlapping situations, both in county and in township. No one wants to consolidate them. They've been around forever. No one wants to upset the apple cart. It should be reviewed. State organizations have gotten together and reviewed it, but it hasn't gone anywhere. It's installed in the legislative branch forever.
The one point I would like to make is the reason there are no township elections in this cycle is they are partisan. It is Democratic and Republican. Whereas all of the offices that are going to be in this April 4th election are nonpartisan. So that is why you do not see township offices in this election.
And there's one other thing, they all get paid. All
Oh,
township
yes.
officials get paid. No nonpartisan election, nobody gets paid.
Well, and they don't just get paid, they get very nice pensions.
Pensions.
So we pay, we pay and pay and pay for all these duplications. I agree totally with Mark, we don't need all these extra people getting salaries that come out of our taxes. As Steve said, and it's the same with all the five of us, we don't get paid anything and we do very hard work. Yes, the people who plow our streets should get paid for what they do, but they have supervisors upon supervisors. And, it's a lot of money. I mean, Illinois is very heavily taxed and, we start looking for ways to save our taxpayers' money, and getting rid of the townships might be a great way to do that.
Okay, Scott, are we ready for our next poll?
Sure. The question is, when is the next municipal election? On this one, you can only vote for one choice.
Okay. All the above.
I was going to say right now,
What's happening?
9 o'clock tomorrow morning.
All right, I think everyone has voted, so I'll end the poll and share the results.
None of the above. Wow.
So I wonder, people that chose none of the above, what their thinking was.
Hopefully they voted early.
Yeah, maybe it's because we left off early voting. Maybe that was.
So what's the
what they're
correct
thinking.
answer, Scott?
Oh, the correct answer is well, as the person that wrote the poll question, the answer is April 4th, but I admit I did not take into account early voting.
Yep, you're right. Okay, how about the next poll too? And maybe you can
Okay.
give some context on why we're asking.
Do you favor ranked choice voting? All right, I'm gonna go ahead and end the poll and then share the results. So the plurality is in favor of ranked choice voting. I put this question in because the Social Justice Committee featured a speaker advocating ranked choice voting, and I know a lot of you attended that. I'm interested to hear from some of our panelists if they have an opinion about it, based on the fact that there's numerous, for some of these offices, there's numerous candidates for few positions. And if they have any ideas about strategies about voting. So I'm going to do the stop sharing now.
I think it's best served with more candidates. I think Steve and Barry are in races where there's more than 5 or 6, where that would make a difference. Robert and I are in small races. And Matthew, I apologize. I don't know how many people are running in your slot for your position.
5 are for 3 spots.
3 spots.
Yeah. If I can say something about ranked choice voting, if that would be okay. Yeah,
Yes.
like it for our purposes on the local election. Again, like I was saying, there's 3 spots that are open and 5 people that are running. So you already get a choice right now of 3 out of the 5 if you'd like, or you can just vote for 1 person. You can vote for 2 person, however many you'd like. I think ranked choice voting, in my opinion, works best when you've got a partisan race. So you've got Republicans and Democrats that are on the ballot. It really does leave open for third parties, which right now is a really tough thing. If you're going to run a third party, it's both sides are going to look at it and kind of vote strategically. But if I were to, say I were looking at the ballot that I had in front of me and it said, say I was someone for the Green Party, but I didn't want to throw my vote to the Green Party because I want to support the, lesser of 2 evils in the Democratic Party. In that case of ranked choice voting, I could vote for the Green Party, the Democratic Party, and then, no one else, or, maybe the Libertarian Party and leave off the Republican Party. And in that way, if there are enough people that feel that the way that I feel, and the Democratic Party gets, and the Green Party can actually get up there, then yeah, that's something that's a possibility. But for our local elections, it's a little bit of a tougher road ahead for that.
Okay, anybody else have an opinion on that? Okay, I'm gonna do one final question to all of our panelists. And this gives each of you an opportunity to provide information about where we can learn more about you and get more knowledge, get more insights, not only about you, but also about the position that you serve. So Robert, do you want to just give a quick response on how we can learn more about you and your candidacy?
You can go on the Hoffman Estates website, and there's a little biography of me on there. Could follow me on Facebook. You see a lot about my political endeavors there, things I do with the Park District. And you could always, and anybody, if you're that interested in me, you can just give me a call and I'll be glad to talk to you about my issue, what my positions are. Again, it's fortunate what I do and what Mark does, because our mission statement is making life fun. I mean, we want kids to play games. Mark coaches more teams than any one person can at all, but he does a great job of doing it. But we're just trying to provide grass and ball fields and courts and things for kids to have a good time, and not just kids, but also we serve. I shouldn't be regress in saying this, but we also have, we serve the elder community in our area. We serve the elder citizens. So we do a very good job and we're very proud of that. But I would love to talk to you about what we do if you're more interested in it, or you can see my bio. And some of you are, I would just always say you all have known me for, most of you have known me for 20+ years, so I'm still the same person. So.
Thanks, Mark. Mark, anything you want to add to that?
No, Robert's right, heparks.fun. We both have our bios there. And I think everybody at the synagogue has my phone number and my email. Judy, you had my wrong email from 20 years ago.
Sorry about that.
That's fine. But my life is pretty much an open book. Everyone knows me and my family. I would just, are we making our final statements now?
Sure.
I just want to say that I would love people to become upstanders, not bystanders. I want people to participate, whether it be the park district and the school board, whether it be voting or attending meetings. But get involved, do something for your community. That's why the 5 Let's Do It, bust our ass, spend our money, and just trying to make things better for everyone.
Okay, Steve.
So I also have a website. It's really complicated. It's stevenrosenblum.com. So you could check that out to learn more about me as an individual candidate. I'm running with a few other people on a slate, and our website is d211wedeserve.org altogether. It's d211wedeserve.org. That'll tell you more about us. There's information with links to the Cook County Clerk's office, which talks more about elections in general. There's voting locator, things like that. But also there's ways of communicating directly with me through my website, by email. Look me up in the Temple directory and call me if you want. I'd be very happy to talk to y'all. Like I said earlier this week, I met with somebody at Dunkin' Donuts. If y'all want to meet out for coffee, preferably not after 1 o'clock in the afternoon, because then I'll be up until 3 in the morning. But I'm very, very accessible and be very happy to talk to you more about that. Just when it comes to voting in general, we've already talked that there are so many different places that you can find out. If you live in Palatine, it's very likely you got a door hanger on your door. It's quite possible that you've seen, door hangers and lawn signs and articles in the Daily Herald and the Journal Post, and maybe got Facebook push regarding my candidacy and my fellow slate mates. But it's really important that when you're ready to vote, that you think about it before you stand at the polling place and decide who to put your little check marks next to. And I hope and pray that you vote for at least the 5 of us that are on this panel this evening.
Matthew.
Sure. So to learn more about me, I can drop it in the chat here. I had a Daily Herald write-up that kind of introduces you to who I am and the kind of priorities that I'd like to see the board have moving forward, and some of the things that I'd really like to focus on. But yeah, if this is our final statement, again, thank you to everybody. Thank you to everyone for hosting, for Beth Tikvah for hosting. It's been a wonderful discussion, and I hope that this has inspired some people to learn more about their local elections and maybe even hopefully get a little more involved. I think that would be a wonderful thing to see from something like this.
Barry.
Now, I just put in the chat, but my website is Dr. Barry, FOR220.com, Dr. Barry for 220. And the Daily Herald recorded interviews with each of the candidates and also just recently endorsed. I feel honored I was endorsed, and they had a nice write-up about the endorsed candidates. So going onto the Daily Herald also will give you some more information. I know most of you don't live in Barrington, so this 220 school board election won't affect you, but it's going to be a very consequential election. I really feel like the future of 220 is at stake here. And so if you have friends, relatives in 220, please, share this information with them so they can at least look, and as has been said by everybody, be informed before you walk in. It's not who has the biggest red signs or who has the nicest name. It's really, what we stand for. And so I think you guys all tuning in today shows that you're tuned in. But let's talk to people who are not tuned in, who need to be tuned in, because this is a very important election, as it is, I know, in 211 for Steve. And so, not only vote, but tell your friends to vote and your neighbors to vote and your neighbors' friends to vote, because it's just so important. So thank you for having this forum for us.
Thank you. Thank you all panelists. And I'm going to turn it over to Mickey. And do we have any more questions from the chat? A couple more that we can take.
Yes. Anne, if you would like to unmute yourself, Ann Grutner has a question.
Thank you. I think, thank you to all of the candidates who are here tonight. It's been a very informative evening. I think Barry spoke to this the most, and I apologize if this was covered when I went to refill my drink. One of the times I did that, but Barry mentioned dark money, and that money is coming from out of the district to support some of these pro book banning candidates. And I think maybe Matthew as well had mentioned something similar. While I'm a big Michelle Obama fan, I'm not a fan of her when they go low, we stay high. So because of how significant these elections are, why is it that we're not fighting fire with fire and making sure that our campaigns and our voices are not being equally subsidized by money that supports beliefs that are shared by the non-book banning folks and the pro-trans children folks. And again, I apologize if this was covered while I had stepped away for a moment, but I would love for Barry or any of the candidates to address that.
I would like to, if that's okay. Yeah. So thank you so much for that question. You are absolutely right. I have found myself frustrated when these groups funnel money in here, and then of course when the other party gets involved, they cry foul. But I try and remember when thinking about this that what they're trying to spend their money on is hiding their values from voters, whereas what we're trying to do is communicate our values to them. Unfortunately, the way that most people, when they walk into a voting booth, determine their values is by that little R or that little D. And if I were a betting person, I'd say that if we had those little letters by our names, it wouldn't go the way that they think. So that's what I just take solace in, is that all the money they're spending is to try and hide the values that they have from the voting community, whereas we're, I think, the more honest in our point of view.
So, Anne, I appreciate your comment. My race, as you know, is in a very, very contentious area right now, right? And there's definitely
my area, Steve, in more ways than one.
Yeah, and there's definitely sides to the issues. I am running. I've committed from the very start to run a positive campaign, and I want people to go into the polling place and vote for me because they want me on the board, not necessarily because they don't want something else on the board, but they do want me on the board, right? And they do want the things that I'm going to bring. And that's what I continue to push and promote, is what needs to happen to keep the school district the way that it is and make it even better, and how I can contribute to that. Unfortunately, to Matt's point, there's other people who are using fear misinformation and disinformation to promote themselves and to promote their cause and maybe their candidates. And it's certainly a challenge in how do candidates such as myself combat that. There are some groups, especially in Palatine that I know of, called Parents Supporting Palatine Schools, PSPS, that are bringing forth a lot of information about the scare tactics and fear tactics that other people are bringing into the campaign, while also supporting me and some other people in the positiveness that we have to offer. But also, to Matt's point, to keep the D and the R's out of it. Unfortunately, that's not always the case. And sometimes those groups do get involved either directly or indirectly. But really, I know that, and to your point, Ann, there has been frustration given to me directly that we need to be more vocal and counteract those who are saying things about people such as myself, and the way things that they're not happy with what's going on in our district and things like that. But I'd rather promote the positive things and have people go in there wanting me on the board rather than fearing something else. So that's just been my strategy in my campaign, and I hope that it pays off in the end.
No,
Okay.
I just want to echo
Yeah.
what Steve has said. I'm concerned that the opposition is kind of trying to buy the election. They are spending so much money on mailers, and it's just slanderous stuff that they send out. I mean, my poor wife just gets so upset when she reads what people are saying about me, and I've tried to have a thick skin. But we have followed the Michelle Obama example, and we've said we're going to keep high, and we may lose, but we're going to lose with honor and dignity, and just keep sharing our positive message. And I think the community is starting to wake up and see not only the negativity, but just they're starting to ask questions about the dark money. I thank the Daily Herald. They've had a couple of articles about this. And WBEZ had a nice piece. It wasn't on the radio, but it was in online, specifically about the dark money coming into Barrington. So people are starting to see it, and if it's enough, I hope so. I want to represent the community values, and that's being upstanding and positive and honest. And I don't think the opposition can say that they are upstanding, honest, because they're not. So.
And Ann, I'd like to add one thing quickly, Ann. I think the Democrats, we're getting very specific here. I think the party you're talking about, the Democrats, were a little late to the game this time. I know the Republican Party have been planning this 3-4 years ago, more grassroots level involvement, frankly, and that's what it is. It's the $800, it's the elephant in the room, but that's what it is. They've been planning and plotting this for a while. It's been part of a strategy, and the Democrats have been slow to adapt.
Okay, we're getting to the end of our program, and we don't want to leave without providing some important information all about voting and the importance of voting, and we can't do that without election judges. So Mickey, I'm going to have you make an introduction so that we can get the word out about the need for election judges.
All righty. Well, my very good friend Myrna Frankel has been an election judge, a precinct captain. I don't even know what other titles you have, Myrna, but has been doing this for a very, very long time. And I will just compliment Bob and Myrna. This has nothing to do with it. They go out and they're knocking on doors every weekend during the week. So they don't just talk to talk, they walk the walk. But anyway, Myrna would like to talk about election judges. There was an article in the paper recently about how desperate Cook County and many of the other counties are of getting election judges. So Myrna, I'm going to pass it along to you to share the information that you'd like to give the group. You just need to unmute yourself.
No, very quickly, this is a wonderful visual, tells you all the information. Call me. The thing that's not on here, to be an election judge, The day of election is 5 a.m. till about 8:30 p.m. till you close the polls, transmit the results. You set up the night before. This is Cook County, and I'm sure the other counties are very similar. You set up the night before for about 2 hours. And right now for this election, there is training. I don't know if there is time for a 2 or 3 hour training session, but there's also online training. And the best part is you get $250, and we figured out it's a little bit more than $10 an hour. So, hey, believe it or not, it's fun, and it is democracy in action. This is as visual and as you can get about how government runs. So there you are. You can call me, you can email me, or you just go straight to Cook County Clerk. Thank you. And please be an election judge, and don't forget to vote.
Thank you, Myrna. I'm an election judge and I love it. And everything that Myrna said is absolutely true. I've never felt so proud about the democratic process, and just meeting people as well is a really great opportunity. So we want to close out the program. Again, I want to thank all of our panelists for joining us, for taking time out, providing such wonderful, wonderful knowledge and insights. I've learned so much, and I'm sure our audience agrees. And audience, thank you too for your time, your respectful questions and inquiries. Overall, I think this went the way that we hoped it would, and we hope that you've taken away a lot, that you've gotten to know our candidates a little bit better, not because of their candidacy, but because they do represent our congregation. So with that, I'm going to put up a couple more slides just about voting in general and some information that can help you vote or help others get out and vote. We have information about, let me just see here. We have information about ways to vote, and pretty much everybody knows about early voting, vote by mail, election day voting, and also special accommodations for people with a variety of disabilities as well. The best source of information is Cook County Clerk, Illinois.gov. And then you can also, through that same website, you can also get your voter information. So you can get your registration status. Are you registered or not? Where's your polling place? Where's your early voting site? Who are my elected officials? What's the mail ballot status and provisional ballot status? So there's all kinds of ways that you can get the information that you need to make sure you get out and vote and make sure your voice is represented. Thank you very much.
Jump in the links both for the voter information, for ways to vote, and then for an election judge. If you go into the chat, it's not at the very end, it's kind of in the middle. It's right after the rabbi letting us know that he had to leave the meeting, but the links for those 3 websites are in the chat.
Great.
Okay. Well, good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you for the organizers. Thanks, Judy.
Thanks,
You're
Scott.
very
Thanks,
welcome.
Mickey.
Our pleasure. Glad you could all make it.